Thank you, Rodrigo, for your presentation. I'd like now to call our last speaker of this panel. It's Mr. Carlos Alexandre Pires to talk about the PROCEL industry program. No, I don't want to be the barrier between you all and lunch, so I intend to be very brief, but I tend to speak a lot. But let's start. I'm going to talk about PROCEL. PROCEL, as you know, it's the National Program of Energy Conservation in Brazil. It was created in 1985 with this mission of promoting energy efficiency and contributing to improve quality of life and reduce environmental impacts. But I want to mention the origins of PROCEL, why it was created at that time. The world was going through some oil crisis, and very late the PROCEL program was created in 85, 1 year before the InMetro program for labeling was created. So it was a response, a late response to the oil crisis that took place in the years before. But it's interesting to observe that from that moment on, and on that occasion, if you remember maybe, companies of energy distribution and energy generation were basically state-owned. We had major companies, Eletrobras, for example, and at the time, what was designed as a possibility to execute the PROCEL program was the executive secretariat was to be run by Eletrobras. Since Eletrobras was the leader of all this production chain, and since the distributors were scattered throughout Brazil, the program was created in order to be executed in networks. So there was around the table, there were companies of the sector, the academia, industries, companies, representatives of companies and industries. So it was a very big auditorium for us to execute the execution of program. The resources had to be multiplied so that results could be achieved. From the beginning, PROCEL was created with this network feature and created with the need of leveraging resources that were not exclusively coming from the Brazilian government or the Brazilian state. We have a summary here on the functioning of PROCEL. Throughout all of these years, PROCEL was able to save over 20 billion kilowatts hour. This represents today, in 2017, the last result that we have, approximately 4.57% of the total consumption in Brazil per year, equivalent to a little more than 11 million households consumption. In practice, this is as if Brazil had saved a 5,000 megawatt power plant with investments for over 3.7 billion reais. So I forgot to translate this on my slide. He says, but these are in the industry, buildings, street lighting, sewage, information, structuring studies, PROCEL seal, which is the most well-known aspect that you know, energy management in municipalities, and marketing. In this graph, we can see some of the difficulties that we've encountered in the program throughout the years because of a non-systematization of resources and a non-perennity of resources allocated to the energy efficiency projects. And this is due to the fact, as I mentioned, originally PROCEL was created to be executed in network with resources from Eletrobras, and for a long time also, it was also the manager of what we call the Global Reserve of Reversion. And it was a fund created with the purpose of giving back to the concessionaires the investments that may be left after a concession. So a company, let's say, with a concession for 20 years, after 20, 30 years has an amount of resources in assets that need to be returned to the state, and therefore it has to be remunerated. So in this reversion reserve, that was the purpose. It was a fund that was inactive. It has to be invested in projects with guaranteed results. And for some time, these results were invested especially in public lighting, in the improvement of energy efficiency in street lighting through the PROCEL program. With the decree, a famous decree of our September 11, 2012, what happened is that the Global Reserve stopped receiving resources, and consequently PROCEL also stopped using this fund for energy efficiency. So on this graph you can see there was a gap for some years, a decrease in the investments that was only back to normal as of 2017 because of this law that I mentioned, the law 13280 of 2016. It basically said that the resources coming from the net operational revenue of distributors that must be invested in energy efficiency, part of these resources have to be displaced to this PROCEL program. What is the rationale behind this? The rationale is because concessionaires can continue to use resources to invest, for example, in industries, low income, but without having fundamental work done by PROCEL, there is no synergy, and we cannot optimize investments done at the tip of the process by distributors, because they are the one who know their target audience and they know the last mile. What are these fundamental works? A few more details about results, and we can observe a continuous growth of the results of the program, reaching 21.2. These figures are always certified after some time, because to assess the results of the program, it's very complicated. We have to add up a lot of activities and also use a methodology that presupposes that equipment acquired with the PROCEL seal are active not only on the year of acquisition but also over the following years. So it's very simple to verify. An air conditioning system that has been replaced will last for many years, and while the useful life offers a better energy efficiency that is better than the one offered in a marketplace, these results are registered for PROCEL purposes. I mentioned the activities of the program and how they are aligned with an expectation to improve energy efficiency, not only in the industry but also in households and the market as a whole. So, from that law that I mentioned, somehow the governance was changed for PROCEL to manage these resources, because we had to give an answer to society, because resources now came from the distributor itself, and it obtained these resources from consumers themselves. Each one of us here in our energy bill, we pay a small percentage used by the distributor to make investments in energy efficiency, and part of these resources go to PROCEL. So we need a more robust governance so that the process of application of these resources to be executed. Why these are the programs that PROCEL executes? As very well mentioned by Gustavo and Rodrigo, PROCEL already did programs for the industry, but it didn't have the necessary reach, the necessary outreach to face the challenge to invest in major industries in a country that has continental size, the size of Europe. So this initial step is provided by PROCEL for both programs, Alliance and More Productive Brazil. Throughout the years to come, if there is momentum, we won't need resources from the federal government. So this is the intention, to have both programs and other initiatives included in the PROCEL program as a whole. That goes through a government. So it's under public consultation, and this public consultation ends next Tuesday. Before that, the program was designed and discussed very broadly with many players who are part of the coordinating group for energy conservation, created with PROCEL back in 1985. So this is the framework of PROCEL in terms of governance. So as part of the resource application plan for the next 12 months, a new stage of the Alliance program contemplating 24 new plans and looking for investments for a pilot project, continuing the Alliance program, bringing robustness so that it can, for the next few years, to have momentum. Even so, we aim to achieve two other segments in the industry with mid-size and large plants, with training, investments, energy audits, encouraging the use of ISO 5001. Brazil was one of the pioneering countries with a very important participation in the formulation of ISO 50001, and we are one of the countries with the least reach of the ISO 50001. We still need to leverage the use of ISO 50001 in Brazil, due to a belief that this type of certification is more a cost than a benefit to industrial people in Brazil. These are other projects included in the PROCEL program. Assessment of the engine market. We know that engines in Brazil, although we have a legislation, very advanced and recent legislation with major impact on the minimum levels of efficiency for our engines. Our engines are one of the most efficient in the world comparing to European levels, but we have a second-hand engine market that is very strong, that can represent up to 70% of the engine park installed in Brazil. So we have a huge challenge, how to make these old engines as efficient as the new engines. So we also have energy audits in thermal systems. Brazil more productive in phase 2, as our colleague said. The creation of new centers of excellence in the industry, energy efficiency in the industry, as mentioned by Rodrigo. And I conclude my lecture asking that whoever can do it, please take a look at the document that is under public consultation on the website, the PROCEL plan for the next biennial, but it's going to be executed in 2019, but with actions that go over the 2019 period. So this is a link, because the link it's more extensive. This is a summarized link. But please take a look at this plan and criticize and make your contributions, because after this public consultation, the Ministry of Mines and Energy, with the group of energy efficiency management and the management committee, will make a final arrangement, a final version of this plan, giving the directions that will, the guidelines to use the energy efficiency resources for the next couple of years. So please take a look at this document, and thank you again for your attention. Thank you very much, Carlos.